1966 was a spinoff of the Adam West Batman TV show. I think probably nowadays people know this more than they do the TV show. Specifically, two scenes that we'll get to. This one, it had show they replaced the actress for Catwoman, I think, but everyone else was the same. So it starts with almost like a title crawl, saying who this movie's dedicated to, and it says it's dedicated to enemies of crime and lovers of unadulterated entertainment. Batman, the movie, 1966, was a spin-off of the Adam West Batman TV show. I think probably nowadays people know this more than they do the TV show. Specifically, two scenes that we'll get to. This one, it has mostly the same cast as the TV show. They replaced the actress for Catwoman, I think, but everyone else was the same. So it starts with almost like a title crawl, saying who this movie's dedicated to, and it says it's dedicated to enemies of crime and lovers of unadulterated entertainment. And that kind of sets the tone for what this movie's going to be.
It feels immediately like the intro to Monty Python, The Holy Grail.
Yes, it's
where
stylistically very similar.
Yeah. That's what I was getting images of that when I was watching it. It was just like as that was happening, I like almost expected them to start talking about llamas. Or something like that. It's
wild. And that leads into like a psychedelic opening of Batman and Robin chasing around, just the classic criminal with the trench coat and the fedora. Looks like the neighborhood watch guy. It's wild. And then so we get right into the action. Batman and Robin are going to save a Commodore's yacht. I don't know that we ever get the Commodore's name, but it's just he's on a yacht with some vague science device that he needs to go save. So Batman and Robin zoom off in the Batmobile in Gotham City, because it's obviously just LA. It's like the first Halloween movie where it's supposed to take place in the Midwest, but there's palm trees everywhere.
Right.
So they're zooming off. Robin, I wrote down some of the more ridiculous quotes. Robin says, Batmobile to airport, prepare the Batcopter for immediate takeoff. I guess they just have it parked at some airport. Right. They don't take off from the Batcave.
Right, because it makes more sense for it to be at an airport than it is to be in a cave, you know?
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, if you think about it, like, what's the air traffic controller going to say when some unidentified
that's true. And it
helicopter
also fits into this world of Batman,
right,
where there's nothing secret about Batman except for his identity. He's operating fully out in the public with everyone's knowledge and consent.
He has carte blanche from the police to just kind of be and do what he needs to do. So he probably, I can kind of envision like these little helpers that are almost like bat elves that are getting the copter ready.
Well, and that's literally what happens. They're like aimless airport workers that roll it out onto the tarmac and they just stand there saluting while Batman and Robin climb into the helicopter. And then they're flying over, and just everyone loves Batman in this universe.
Oh yeah.
Which, compared to where he's at now, it's
a little different.
A whole different world. But so they fly over like a group of cheerleaders that start waving and cheering. There's a group of I think they're servicemen in their full dress uniforms. They just start saluting.
Because Batman obviously outranks every single one of those people.
Well, I mean, In this universe, he
yes.
does.
And in this universe,
this is Adam West Batman.
Like,
he outranks everyone.
There's 5-star generals, and then there's Adam West.
Yeah. So they go off. They find the yacht. Batman goes down on a rope ladder, and he's about to land on the boat, and then it just disappears. And he dips all the way down in the water, comes back up. He's got this rubber shark on his leg. And this is one of the scenes that, like, if you know this movie, you know this scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's where he says, hand me down the shark repellent bat spray. But what I always think is funny that kind of gets overlooked is that when he does it, there's a whole rack of bat spray animal repellents. There's like tiger repellent. And so he hands it down, Batman sprays the shark, and it falls down and explodes. We find out later that it's because the villains literally fed the shark TNT. There's a line explaining it.
And I really wish that it was. I really wish that it was like a part of the spray. Like it's funnier
that
I
remember thinking. I was like, wait, why did the shark explode?
What did you spray on it? There's some like I don't know, like Simtex in a spray or in an aerosol can. And Robin's up there just waiting to blow up this shark. That's, maybe that's why all the people in the city love him. They got rid of They got rid of the shark problem. I mean, it's LA, right?
It's LA. So then he immediately holds a press conference talking about what's going on with this boat. And a Russian reporter named Miss Kitka just kind of offhandedly says, can you take off your mask so I can get a better photo? And everyone is so shocked and so offended that she dared to ask Batman to take off his mask. And he actually has to calm them down. He's like, it's okay. She's a foreigner. She doesn't know what it is. Gordon says that if they took off their masks, it would destroy their value as crime fighters.
Because the masks give them that value. That's the thing.
It's meant to be like exposing their identities means that people can go after who they really are.
Right.
Go after their it's worded very strangely, and they refuse to call them anything other than crime fighters.
Right.
They never use the word superhero. They use the word vigilante once when Miss Kitka says, oh, you're like the vigilantes in those westerns. And again, everyone clutches their pearls. They're so offended that anyone would call him a vigilante. And immediately Robin's like, no, we're not. Support your police. That's our message.
Nowadays, they would just say, Blue Lives Matter.
Burt Ward has some of the craziest lines. I love it.
Burt Ward's a national treasure.
And then it turns out that this all was a trap while Batman and Robin were chasing after the hologram, the actual villains, because it's the big Avengers-style team-up of the Riddler, the Penguin, the Joker, and Catwoman. And so they took over the actual yacht and kidnapped the actual Commodore. And they are with Gordon, and they literally go through like an exposition slideshow. Like, these are Batman and Robin's biggest enemies: the Riddler, the Catwoman, the Joker. And then we cut to Miss Kitka going to the villain's hideout because they have like a pierside clubhouse it looks like it's a restaurant with like a little apartment.
Right.
It. And so this is our big reveal that Miss Kitka has turned out to be Catwoman, and she walks up the stairs, and the thug guarding the door is like, hello, Catwoman. And then she just slaps him and says, I told you never to use my real name.
That made me so uncomfortable the first time that I watched that when that happened. I was like, why do you...
disparaging this movie.
No.
It is a treasure.
It's one of the best. Like,
just how absurd it is. And I mean, it was a show for kids in the 60s.
Right. So this is the movie spinoff, right? It's like, that's the, no, but like, the idea. Some of the lines, some of the deliveries. Yeah. Just the way that Batman exists in this universe. Yes. Yeah. So she shows up. She breaks up a fight between the Riddler, the Penguin, and the Joker by like throwing a cat at them and saying, "Scratch their eyes out." And everybody's really afraid of this cat. Catwoman's cat is a through line in this movie. That's how I wish any video game representation of Catwoman that's existed. I wish that's how that was like her ranged attack, was like taking a cat out of nowhere and just throwing it. You know, I mean, like you could that easily could have been. I don't know. Maybe I haven't played the Lego Batman games, but maybe that's a Catwoman attack in one of those. I hope so. Pocket. I don't think I've played them either, but I really hope that like she pulls a cat like out of nowhere. So at some point they say, "Oh, how's our guest doing?" Turns out that they kidnapped this Commodore. I don't know how he rose to that rank. He's stuck in the basement of their clubhouse in like this little fake cabin. They've literally got like a painted screen outside the window and a guy with flippers just splashing his feet in a little kiddie pool to make him think that he's still on a boat. And the Joker goes in and pretends to be his butler. Or like a waiter or something. And he's just like, "Oh, you should get out in the sun more." It's these versions of the villains are just wild. Yeah. And also because it's modern restorations, you can really tell that Cesar Romero didn't want to shave his mustache. Right. Because, I mean, in the 60s, it was, it's on a crappy little TV. No one's going to see it. But it's obvious that just the Joker makeup is over his fully grown mustache. Oh, man. That makeup, too, is just, like... Oh, yeah. I love it. It's wild. It's super Silver Age. Oh, yeah. Also, he looks so much like the Man Who Laughs. Yeah. Old silent movie that inspired his like super violent golden age look, but they just ported the appearance over for that. I love it. So Batman realizes that the ship was a hologram projected from a buoy, and they decide to go out in the Batboat because they've got all their wonderful bat vehicles. I love it. Really wonder why they didn't let the port know that they were taking the Batboat out, because if they let the airport know. Yeah, I think the Batboat, they do just get out of the Batcave. Oh, it makes sense because it's easier to keep a boat in the Batcave. Their Batcave set, where it's just like the concrete walls. Everything has a giant label. Yes. That says the Bat Computer. The Bat Computer, just in case they get confused. Right. It makes me think that, like, great. Alfred got a little too senile at that point, and, like... They had to put labels because he started forgetting. Yeah. I don't actually remember if Alfred was even, like, a prominent part of this... era, because it was Batman being the mentor figure for Robin. He was like the ultimate hero who's always in charge, and handling every situation. None of the jaded, complex, emotional. Yeah, we don't want that in a kids movie. Gosh, no. Until we get to the Lego Batman movie, but right now we're in the 60s. So they take out the Batboat. To look for they assume that the yacht has been taken to a secret island hideaway, and they're going around looking for it. And we see that the villains are on their tail in the Penguin submarine, which is painted to look like a penguin, and it moves around instead of having a rudder or like a rotor by like real submarines have. It has flippers. It's great.
And the periscope, when they go to look for the Batboat, is literally just a cartoon penguin head.
Never mind that the waters that they're, in wouldn't really support penguins.
Yeah, it's theming. It's fine. Everything has to be on theme.
Oh, yes.
So that stupid little kids can know whose submarine that is. So Batman and Robin find the buoy, and they get on, and they're, like, poking around on it. And so the Penguin activates a magnet on board the buoy that sticks them to it by their belts. And then they start shooting torpedoes at them. And, like, I thought that, like, just take off your belts. This isn't like the modern day bat suit that has all the metal components. It's fabric.
It's the big onesie.
Appears to be the only metal.
Right.
The only metal appears to be the belt. But instead of that, Batman pulls out a transmitter, and he's detonating the torpedoes. And it's a fun comedy sequence. Like, oh, it blew up. And they look at the periscope. He's like, oh, they're still there. Shoot more. And on the third torpedo, the battery dies. And we are down with the villains as they're looking on the thing, and it explodes. And like, oh, we finally got Batman. And then they look up through the periscope, and he's just not there anymore. And then just cut to them driving away in the Batboat, talking about how a dolphin just last minute jumped in front of the torpedo and saved them. He literally says it was noble of that animal to hurl itself into the path of that final torpedo.
That, like, I don't know about you, but, like, when I was growing up, I was shielded and also probably didn't really seek out anything animal harm related.
Oh, I was the same way.
So the idea that a dolphin all on its own jumped out of the water and was like, gonna just get in between this boat and this torpedo and blow up. Like I just like I could thank goodness that they like obviously they're not going to show that, but like
they show the shark.
They show the shark, but like
because sharks are scary.
Right, sharks are the enemy. Dolphins are cute and obviously cuddly.
In real life, it's kind of reversed.
Right. Yeah, that's too much.
But
and
like Batman is so much of a hero in this universe that even dolphins
he probably tried to spray he probably sprayed the dolphin. That's what it was.
Dolphin repellent.
He got some dolphin repellent or dolphin attractant. That's probably what it was.
Oh yeah.
He could probably have both. He probably got some dolphin catnip and like sprayed the like
this is just an evil version of Batman that sees everyone as expendable pawns.
The Adam West Batman just sees animals as expendable
alternate
pawns.
Version of Earth where Batman is evil.
Yeah,
that's what the Adam West equivalent would be.
This is the flashpoint of Adam West Batman.
So then Batman gets back. He calls up the Admiral, and in keeping with everyone other than Batman being totally incompetent, he's like, "Hey, Admiral, did you by chance misplace any nuclear submarines?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we just sold one to a guy named P.N. Gwynn."
I often purchase nuclear submarines from the Navy.
And also, and Batman is like, P.N. Gwynn. Penguin.
That's like the cipher in the new Batman. That's like they miss up L and law because they don't know first grade. They don't know.
Well, it's
Spanish.
so that they can do the URL thing,
right?
And we'll get into that with
Batman. The Batman.
So another thing that I absolutely love, Penguin's submarine launches out it's one of those obvious stock footage shifts. Because it's stock footage of a Polaris missile. And Robin says, "Holy Polaris, Batman." The Polaris missile was an actual thing used by the Navy in the 60s and 70s. And so it's just stock footage of this real missile that is shot up to skywrite a riddle to them. And that's how they figure out that it's all four of these villains working together. is that the Penguin submarine shoots up a rocket that writes a riddle in the form of a joke, to which the answer is cat. And that's what tips them off that it's all four of them.
I feel like when that happened, the only conversation that could possibly happen between the four of them would be, we really can't pass up this opportunity to completely and utterly undermine our entire plan. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, because that's even a recurring thing, is later on in the movie, Penguin is like, Riddler, stop giving him clues. You're gonna undermine this whole thing. He's like, no, the only joy I get out of life is in outsmarting Batman.
Which is hilarious, considering that Batman is just like, well, this here's the answer.
Yeah, right. It takes him 2 seconds. And that's the great scene where they're like, oh, do you think that they're going to take over the city? It's like, if there were 2 of them, then I would say yes. What, the entire United States? If there were 3. But since it's all 4, their minimum objective must be the entire world. That might be my favorite line in the movie. It's just so perfectly and so of its time. A lounge singer.
It encapsulates like
Bruce and
all
Kit
of
are
what
the
the
only
movie is
people
trying
dancing.
to achieve in like one line.
Feels
very like big money. Like
of this whole.
I own this. Come to my restaurant.
Yeah, I cleared out every version except for these 2 tables. So that
no one else. It's just us, and that table is for the cooks when they're done at the end of the night. They're not allowed to sit at my table.
These are the waiters for when they're not serving us.
Right.
And then they go on like a romantic carriage ride through the park, and Robin and Alfred are just trailing them in the Batmobile.
Right.
This is where I have in my notes, Bruce tries to use sex to bring down the Iron Curtain, because he brings up how, like, we in the Soviet Union could get along if more of us were just more deeply interested in each other. And they have like this kind of uncomfortable talk about the dreams that they're both having, and she's like, oh, I dream of a world united. Like, I'm dreaming of something totally different. It's like rewatching this, I was surprised by how horny this section is.
Gosh.
For how child friendly everything else in the movie.
Well, it's like those jokes that kids shows have that are geared towards adults, right? Like the the absolute classic practically all of SpongeBob, right? The stuff like that. That's why I wasn't allowed to watch SpongeBob. I got away with it because my parents didn't know.
That's a loophole.
That's the loophole.
No, but so Robin decides this is taking too long. I'm going to turn on the bat signal, so they think that Batman and Robin are running off to do something else, and they'll hurry up with their attack. And that doesn't go anywhere. He just says he's going to do it, and then he does it, and then it's never brought up again. Nobody talks about it. Miss Kitka is telling Bruce to describe the not even super vaguely sexual dreams she's having so that his eyes are closed, and then she pulls a radio that's literally shaped like a cat and uses that to signal the villains.
I wish that she had pulled out a cat, like an actual cat.
That would be funnier.
And then sent the cat on the way.
That might be pushing it. She literally, it was like a messenger pigeon. She had a piece of paper in his collar.
Yes.
No, so they go back to her place. She changes into a super sultry, floor-length bathrobe. They're making out. It's like the 60s, like the weird 60s making out, where they're eating each other's chins instead of actually kissing.
Their mouths are about 2 inches open. And And
in the Batmobile, Robin's like, I know we're supposed to be staking out, but this is uncomfortable and I don't want to watch it. And so he turns off the screen, allowing everyone to come in and ambush them.
That was one of my favorite scenes of this movie. Was Robin's just I'm on this mission and I have a job to do.
This is my dad.
But
in Robin's defense, they are totally gonna hook up.
Yeah, like, I mean, he saved himself.
No other trajectory that was going. Thank God they were interrupted by all of the goons flying in on giant umbrellas. So they barge in. Bruce does an admirable job fighting them off, but he ultimately loses. And then later on, Robin's like, okay, maybe we should check in on them. Turns on the camera. The room is messed up. They're both gone. Like, goddamn, Robin.
Robin just like, oh man, the incompetence doesn't stop with the people that aren't Batman and Robin.
Right.
It's everyone
who isn't
except Batman. Yeah.
Robin has it a little easier than everyone else.
Yeah, because at least he can hold his own in a fight, but the rest of it is like, you know what? I just don't really want to watch
I don't want to watch my dad get laid.
I don't want to be a voyeur watching porn in a car. So I'm gonna turn off the TV.
Right.
And then turn it back on when I feel like it.
So then they get taken to the villain's hideout. The villains are super confused as to why Batman isn't coming to rescue Bruce Wayne. Bruce demands to see Miss Kitka, and so they put a blindfold on him, and Catwoman literally does a quick change and then lays down in bed, and he's like, okay, well, Batman's not coming to save us. We have nothing to look forward to but death. Unless... And then he says that he has a radio tied to his elbow. And he says, capitalists like myself who carry large sums of money often have such safety contrivances.
Gotta love capitalism.
It's so of its time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, remember the state of the world at this point.
Right. God, I mean...
And so he doesn't actually have a radio. He just said that so that the villains would, like... untie him so they could get to it so that he could kick their asses. One of the Penguin's goons, who, by the way, they're all dressed like pirates for some reason. Every single one of them.
Another classic.
But one of the nameless goons, he gets launched out of a window by a Joker trap, and he just explodes. It, like, launches him off the pier into the water, and he blows up.
He probably hit that same patch of water that the shark was on.
So Bruce escapes, just leaves Miss Kitka behind, and he goes back to Wayne Manor, and he finds, like, Gordon there talking to Alfred, and he says, I'm Bruce Wayne, I'm back. Gordon, go back to the police station. Batman might want to call you later.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. And then he goes down to the Batcave and gets stuff set up. We cut back to the villains. The ambiguous science device is a dehydrator that can suck all the water out of a person and turn them into a little thing of dust. And so Penguin's plan is to dehydrate a bunch of his pirates and smuggle them into the Batcave in these little glass jars so that he can then rehydrate them in the Batcave and use them to take over the Batcave.
Only in this version of the world would that work.
Yeah.
Because obviously bonkers. You retain all of your organs in the state that they were in if you remove all the water from your body.
Add water.
Right. That's
how it works.
Are all shrinky dinks.
Yeah. In this fantastical reality, the humans are just shrinky dinks.
Yep.
So Batman is able to get back to the hideout as they're climbing up in the classic sideways rope, where that's how they always did it. You can kind of see the wires making their capes hang out behind them. And Robin is wondering aloud why no one has reported this place to the police. And Batman says that the people around here are all alcoholics and probably just think that anything weird is a result of drunken delusions.
Classic.
To which Robin responds, "Gosh, drink is sure a filthy thing, isn't it? I'd rather be dead than unable to trust my own eyes."
Gotta make sure that the God-loving folks back at the studio know
this
that
is a kid show in the 60s.
Right. So if you don't, the drink is the devil.
I love it. It's so of its time. And then this is the other scene that people know, because inside the hideout, I guess they all know the Batman's coming, so they evacuate.
Right.
He finds this perfectly spherical, classic cartoon bomb with the fuse and the wick. And he is trying to get rid of it, but everywhere he runs, he's running with it over his head. And there's just something that pops up, and they get more ridiculous. Like a marching band, a group of nuns, a baby in a stroller. He tries to throw it in the water, but there's like a group of ducklings. He's like, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Well, I mean, you think with the ducklings, he actually might throw it in because of his disregard for animal life. But
no, he doesn't want to kill the animals. He wants the animals to kill themselves.
Right. Well, maybe he gets rid of the bomb, and maybe one of the ducklings light up with smoke because they live in the same area with all the alcoholics, and God forbid.
Maybe they're alcoholic ducks.
Maybe they're alcoholic ducks, and they just
when he finally does get rid of the bomb, Robin says, "Oh, you risked your life to save that riffraff at the bar." And he says, "Yes, they may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings, and they might be salvaged."
We're bringing it back. We're making sure that you know
Batman's
that
taking the high road.
Yeah, we're making sure
that
you
for
know.
anybody, even if they're filthy drinkers.
Yeah, I mean the worst depths of humanity come to the altar.
So then, the next absurd sequence. To get into the Batcave, Penguin disguises himself as the Commodore and says, "Hey, Batman and Robin, I'm the missing Commodore." But he's obviously just the Penguin.
Right.
And so they aren't fooled for a second. They're like, "You're just the Penguin." And he says, "Oh, if you think so, then take a fingerprint." But his fingers are covered in plastic, so they can't take a fingerprint. So they say, "Okay, I guess the only option is to take him back to the Batcave and use the retinal scanner. Otherwise, we can't prove that he's not the Admiral, the Commodore. There's no other way."
That's like if a thief or like someone, if like a thief put on a hat that said "not a thief," and the police who were chasing them and watched him take something, we can't prove that you're not the thief.
You're not the thief
because your hat says you're not. So we have to go use the retinal scanner in the Batcave.
Right. So then, as they're getting the retinal scanner ready, they knock him out with bat gas and take him to the Batcave.
Also on the wall, next to the shark repellent and the dolphin attractant.
And so while they're hooking it up, Penguin is sneaking around, like dumping out the little vials of pirate dust. And he goes to the drinking water dispenser, but it's turned to heavy water, which I guess is the heavy water that they use to cool down the nuclear battery.
Right.
And so there's a big, obvious light, heavy switch, and it's accidentally switched to heavy. And so he rehydrates the pirates, and they just show up out of nowhere. So Robin says, "Holy hallucination." He's like, "I wish it was, Robin, but it's not. It's 5 dehydrated pirates rehydrated."
Because Batman immediately knew as soon as he saw
exactly what was going on.
Right.
But then because it was heavy water for the nuclear battery, as soon as the pirates get hit, they turn into antimatter. And Batman specifically explains this, that because they were unstable because of the heavy nuclear water, they turned into antimatter.
Nice.
Which translates to just them disappearing.
Right.
Like at first I thought that they just dehydrated again. Nope, they're gone.
They're just gone.
They don't exist anymore.
I wish it was just, they just all turn into singularities and in the middle of...
So then they knock, I guess they're gun trying to prove that he's not the Commodore. They're like, oh, yeah, no, you're just the Penguin now. So they knock him out again and load him into the backseat of the Batmobile. And then Batman pulls off and says, Robin, take this antidote. And he does. And then they wake up the Penguin and let him gas them. And even though they have the antidote, they pretend to be knocked out. And the Penguin, like, dumps them on the side of the road and drives off with the Batmobile. And they're like, okay, we got him in a trap. Let's get the Bat helicopter and track him. There's not a tracking device on it. They have to visually track him. I think this is where they start yelling at the Riddler for giving him so many clues. He's like, no, my whole existence is giving Batman clues. And so he launches another Polaris rocket. And he accidentally shoots down the Batcopter with it. And they only survive because they crash into a foam rubber convention.
Oh, thank God there's those foam rubber conventions everywhere.
We're in full Looney Tunes territory here. And then the riddle that he launches is some convoluted thing involving eggs and applesauce. And that's how they deduce that they're going to target the United World Organization.
Huh.
Because it's like, oh, an egg is something that houses things. And an applesauce is how you share an odd number of apples with an even number of people. The riddles are bonkers.
Because those two equals this world's
this
version
of fantastical reality. That is how it works.
Yep, that's how it works.
And so the building that this United World Organization, it has like a secret underground submarine dock. And so the Penguin submarine is able to go underneath the city through this secret tunnel and dock in the building. Penguin knocks out everybody with his umbrella gas. And then they go into the actual like room, and it's just like a single conference room. It looks like it's in a hotel. And it's just like maybe 10 countries. And they're all just yelling at each other.
Classic.
In their relative languages.
That still happens.
Yeah, it's so funny, but so stupid. And just to reiterate how dated this movie is, included in those countries are West Germany and the USSR. And they're so distracted by yelling at each other that the villains are able to walk in with their dehydrator device and dehydrate them one by one, and nobody notices.
Classic. Also a classic thing.
Yeah.
Obviously happens at the UN constantly.
So funny. And their master plan is to, rather than take over the world, they're going to ransom each representative back to their respective countries for $1 billion.
Get your pinkies out.
Yeah. So Batman and Robin chase down the submarine in the Batboat. They launch another Polaris missile.
Man.
And Batman or Robin is just like, oh, I've got a jammer.
Not only is this the third missile, but Robin's like, oh wait, I got something for that.
I forgot about this signal jammer.
Yeah, see this yet another reason why Robin is not Batman.
They start dropping bat charges. Specifically not to damage the submarine, because they have like the little rack of test tubes that contains the delegates.
Right.
They just want to make it surface. And then it eventually does, because they're like at the point where the sub's going to blow up unless they surface. And then they have this awesome brawl on top of the deck of the submarine. And this is where we get the classic pow, bam, sound effect graphics. Batman like steals a sword from one of the pirates and is fencing the Penguin with his umbrella. There's a fun shot where the Catwoman's cat is up on the deck, and Batman takes the time to pick it up and like carefully set it in a little life raft and put it out from the submarine.
Little does he know that cat is more dangerous than the four of the other villains combined.
Well, because they're all so afraid of it.
Right.
And then when it when she knows it's a losing battle, Catwoman runs back into the submarine so that Batman can chase her down. And as soon as she gets off the ladder, she trips and her mask falls off. So he can realize that she's Miss Kitka. And it does like a slow zoom in on his face while this operatic music is playing. And then Robin comes down and he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, Batman. I know you were really into her." Like, "No, stop it. You're going to reveal her identities."
I can just like see Batman's gears turning and like
right.
It would almost be right on par if like they like cross-faded in the scene of them like sucking on each other's chins. Like that's what I want to see.
We don't trust the audience to realize it,
right? Because
she's the same person. We have to do a flashback,
right? Because remember, she was this.
It's a full like romantic montage with the music of all the fun times they had together.
It's
on the sad dance floor.
On the sad dance floor.
In the carriage.
It's we're trying to generate the moment where Leo DiCaprio is pointing at the TV. I know that.
Oh, there he is. So then they just arrest her, and Batman finds the rack of the delegates that's like slightly knocked over, and he picks it up. He's like, "Thank God this wasn't destroyed." Who only knows what the repercussions would have been. And then the real Commodore just steps out and like does a pratfall into him and breaks the whole thing. It's so funny.
And that's how the USSR was defeated.
And then it cuts to Batman and Robin, and they're like wearing lab coats over their costumes.
Right.
Sending everything through a bat dust separator, while literally the entire world is watching and waiting for updates. They have the president on the phone, and they separate everyone out into their own vials because they were color coded too.
Right.
And then they bring them back into the United World Organization building and set them back in their chairs. And they have this elaborate like sprinkler machine to rehydrate them all at once. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And they do it. Everybody rehydrates and immediately starts yelling at each other again.
Classic.
But now they're all speaking the wrong languages. And Batman is just like, "Well, maybe this meeting of the minds will be good for the world. Let's leave, Robin." And they sneak out the window. And then that's the end of the movie.
That's like, he knows that he like, this is like the one time in the whole movie Batman fucks up, right? It's like he realized that like he's gonna get put in prison for this, and he's like, "Well, better make this learning lesson. Come on, Robin." And
maybe it's a good thing for the world.
Maybe this will solve all of our problems. Robin, let's leave.
Let's sneak out the window.
Let's leave and never come back here.
And that's the end of the movie.
Dang.
That's how it ends.
There's not enough sprays for different things.
Yeah.
Obviously. There's not enough...
well, maybe that stuff was in the sequel. There was like an animated TV movie sequel.
That's right.
That I think was made like years after the show. It was like made between when the show stopped airing and when the Tim Burton movie came out.
Right. Gosh.
So, and then in the credits, this was one of the other things that I was looking at. Batman, the character accredited to Bob Kane alone. Who, if you don't know, Batman was co-created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger.
Right.
Who Bill Finger did most of the work.
Right.
And then Bob Kane did like the administrative stuff, like selling the character to DC.
Right.
And then Bill Finger got completely cut out of the equation, and Bob Kane stole credit. And there's a great documentary about it called Batman and Bill. And essentially just Bill Finger died penniless and alone, never having received any credit. And Bob Kane was actively fighting to keep his name far away from Batman.
That's so sad.
And it wasn't until like it's only in the last 5 or 10 years that he's actually gotten recognition. His IMDb page is wild because it's like every Batman project ever. That it's like uncredited, or credited to like some minor thing, and then you go to the actual projects page and he's not mentioned anywhere on it. It's sad.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
The documentary goes really into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is during the time when Batman was created by Bob Finger and Bob Finger alone. Damn it.
Yeah.
Like,
gosh, that's just.
There were rumors cropping up, I think, like kind of around this time, of Bill Finger's involvement, and Bob Kane used the official newsletter of the Batman fan club to shut it down and say, no, I created Batman and no one else did.
Can you imagine like being a child and like loving those comics and probably getting the newsletter from your parents who subscribed to it just because you liked it?
Yeah.
And then getting this weird letter that doesn't make any sense to you.
Yeah.
And then, years later discovering, it's because...
And then, like, in his memoirs right before he died, Bob Kane was like, yeah, if I could do it over again, I would have given Bill Finger more credit.
Hindsight is 2020 when you die in a really nice hospital with all the money.
We don't stand Bob Kane.
We do not.
Bob Kane is like a fraud. He's like the real life version of in Coco, the one guy's like
yes.
the songwriter and stole all of his songs. That's kind of what it was like for Bill Finger and Bob Kane.
Nice. Well, now we know what Bob Kane is up to in hell. He's singing just like Coco.
So then a long time passes with no real Batman content. We've got the show lasts the rest of the 60s. Years later, there's like an animated TV movie. And then news comes out that there's going to be a new Batman movie directed by Tim Burton. Oh. And so people who were like familiar with the Golden Age and even the Bronze Age were like, okay, yeah, we're ready for a dark, gritty, mature Batman movie. Because everything was so campy.
Right.
In the Adam West era. But then the other side of the spectrum, the people who really only knew the Adam West era were really mad that this movie was destroying the sanctity of their favorite kid's character. It was very Silent Night, Deadly Night. To the point that Adam West and Burt Ward hosted like a live broadcast marathon of the TV show on opening day of the Tim Burton movie.
Wow.
Specifically so that telling people, don't go see this movie. Come watch the real Batman with us. So that's how hard people were against it.
Yeah, gosh, imagine being like the first major actor to play the character and actively working against the next rendition.
I mean, we see that a lot nowadays, especially with like voice actors, where I kind of understand it, where it's easy to, if you've been voicing the same character for like 20 years and you're the definitive version, to kind of feel like, okay, it's my guy. This is my character.
Yeah.
And then to have it be taken over by a different person.
Right.
But yeah, this was the ultimate like bad response to that. Not to speak ill of the dead. I'm sure that Adam West was a very nice guy. And granted, I didn't even know if he personally felt that strongly. It could just be that like the studio asked him to do it. But people were not happy about this dark Batman. But then at the same time, people were like calling movie theaters, because this is obviously when the only way to watch a trailer for a movie was to go see it before a movie. And so people were buying tickets to unrelated movies just to watch the Batman trailer and then leaving. That's how much hype was around this movie.
Wow.
And of course, people were upset early on that Michael Keaton was cast as the main actor.
Right.
Most live action iterations of Batman have come up against that. I don't remember if there was that kind of response for Christian Bale, but I remember distinctly when everyone was hating on Ben Affleck.
Yes.
Saying he's going to make a terrible Batman.
Right.
Same with Robert Pattinson saying he's going to make a terrible Batman.
All for different things too. Like
right.
That's the interesting part for me is that
nobody likes And I think that's just kind of a gut reaction, like, oh, that doesn't look like how I imagine the character in my head.
Right. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of, especially with the kind, like the movies that really sink into people and like that are really, really important. Cause like for a long time, like Batman to me was Christian Bale.
Yeah.
And when, Affleck came around, I was like, no, like he can't pull off the Bruce Wayne side.
Yeah,
he can sure his like chest is bigger than anything else ever, but like he's not going to be able to pull off the Bruce Wayne side at all. And then when I watched it, I was like, it's fine.
Yeah, I've always been. I think the only one who turned in a genuinely bad performance was George Clooney.
Yeah,
and we'll get to that. But that was because he was checked out.
Right.
But yeah, I wasn't really on the hate train. I was like, oh, okay, I mean, we'll see how he does. And then when we talk about Batman and Superman, we'll talk about this whole roller coaster. Because when we started getting like set images and trailers, I was so excited for that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And that wraps it up for Batman 1966. Next time we'll be diving into the much darker, much more mature adaptation of Tim Burton with Batman